Hello, DataDev community. Welcome to our fall event 2023. We're so excited to have you, folks from all over the world, especially our first presenter. So I'd like to kick it off with Matthew Miller. Matthew Miller has a great story to tell. Good way to kick this presentation off. So Matthew, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And please let me know, Kevin, if you can see my screen.
I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Thanks everyone who's joined here. The DataDev community around the world is absolutely amazing. And it's been fantastic to be a part of it over the last coming up on 12 years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. As we have this conversation, there's this Q&A panel you've got there on the right, so please feel free to ask questions as we go. I wish we could all be in person so we could interact face-to-face, but barring that, let's use this Q&A so we can have a conversation. But first, normally I like to skip the intros as much as possible, but I feel like in this case, that's what this is all about. This is the introduction, and I'll tell you about my introduction to the DataDev community and my story. And I hope that along the way, you'll learn some things, maybe find some new resources and get inspired for the opportunity that's ahead for you as part of the DataDev community. But first, who am I? Well, in this case, I'm a guy sitting at a desk at Dreamforce wearing my DataDev jacket. Yes, I am tremendously proud of this. It's one of just a handful in the world that someone in Tableau marketing ordered at one point, and I was lucky enough to end up with one of them. I do look very concerned in this photo as if I've had some kind of a digestive issue, but I don't think that was actually the case. My name is Matthew, and I work in product here at Tableau, and I have been using Tableau now for about 12 years, since version 6.1, and hacking and spelunking and extending and APIing before Tableau even had APIs. I now am fortunate enough to lead a brilliant team of product folks here at Tableau working on the future of Tableau that brings together all the assets for analytics across all of Salesforce. I do see the first question in the chat, which is, has the event started? It definitely has. So let's hope that everybody is seeing and hearing what I'm saying. Yeah, if you can, by the way, hear me, just to give me that sense of reassurance, would you throw a question in the chat that says, yes, I can hear you? That would be fantastic. Well, let's jump in. Let me tell you my Tableau journey. A long, long time ago in a galaxy far away, a friend of mine called me up and he said, Matthew, have you ever heard of Tableau? And I said, no, but I took French for several years, so I can probably spell it. And I Googled Tableau and I downloaded it. And that's the screenshot right there of the email I got. You can see how Tableau looked back then. It wasn't as cool and slick as it was. Okay, I see lots of questions in the chat whose answers are, yes, we can hear you. That's fantastic. I'm glad you can. I downloaded version 6.1 of Tableau Desktop, and Tableau Server back then was very, very early. It was primarily just for consuming. There was no Tableau Cloud or Tableau Online, and Tableau Desktop was a very desktop-centric product. It had no APIs whatsoever. And I found that astonishing because I'd come from working for a Microsoft ISV. So I worked extending other products and working with APIs all day, every day. In fact, that's what I'd done that job and the job before that. So my first question once I got into the Tableau community was, where are the APIs? Well, this was a long time ago. And at that point, the kind of mental model for Tableau was that this was for non-developers. You don't need APIs. That you use Tableau because you don't need to know code. You can just go in and see and understand data through the power of drag and drop, which is totally true. But of course, once those of us who had a little bit of development or engineering or scripting ability got using Tableau, we all had a bunch of ideas for what we could do with it. So I went to the Tableau conference in 2012 and sat down for lunch with my friend Eric Sciarla, and he said, hey, you're a coder. Do you know how to write software that would move Tableau content between environments? And I said, it can't be that hard. I'll just go look up the APIs. And that's when I discovered, in fact, at the time, believe it or not, we didn't even have the REST API. But Tableau had a desktop tool and a server product, and surely those two communicated using APIs. So I began spelunking and using Fiddler to figure out how to reverse engineer those. Shortly thereafter, I went to the Tableau Conference 2012, and I was introduced to a young product leader at Tableau named Francois Agenstat. And I sat down with him and I showed him this diagram that you can see on the screen, or should be able to see on the screen now. This was my proposal. I worked at the time for a technology consultancy called Interworks. And this was my proposal for an API we could build that could interact with Tableau content programmatically. And we had some ideas for some cool tooling that would sit on top of it. And so I sat down with him. He only gave me 30 minutes of his time, and it's 7:30 in the morning, which, if you know me, is not my sharpest moment. But I turned up there, iPad in hand, and showed him this diagram. And I said, we're thinking of building this kind of an API. Does Tableau have this? And he said, no, it's like the iPhone at the time, which was more of a kind of black box. It's an end user tool, not a developer tool. And I said, well, is Tableau going to build this? And he said, well, maybe. I won't comment on roadmap because he's always on message. But this is the kind of thing a partner ought to do. So we moved forward and expanded it to a robust offering of tools for Tableau with different layers of APIs for automating a whole bunch of tasks that were common. The analogy that we used at the time was that if Tableau is kind of like Photoshop for your data, anybody who's gone and taken a whole lot of photos at once realizes that Photoshop is amazing for working with one photo at a time. It'll do anything. But what about when you have 3,000 photos of your kids? Well, then you use tools like Lightroom to manage them en masse. And we were basically offering that. We were saying we're going to build basically Lightroom for Tableau, a suite of tools for managing things at scale. So I'm embarrassed of this, and yet I love to show it because it tells all our user experience friends just how bad I am at user experience. But this is the UX mockup that I made myself for a tool that would move Tableau content between environments in a governed way. We call it the Enterprise Deployment Tool, and we went and built it. We found there were a whole bunch of use cases for automating and manipulating Tableau in different ways. Shortly thereafter, the REST API came out, and we did have a public and governed and safe way to move content, to publish content. And of course, that's a very robust API where you can do everything. At the time, it was mostly just publishing content, some basic user administration. We found pretty soon thereafter that there were a bunch of other use cases similar to that. You can see on the screen here a diagram for what we call broadcast deployment, where a customer has like templated content that they want to share with their customers. A lot of our OEM and embedded customers use this kind of a model. But the point isn't really just the use cases. It's that we began to realize that in an analytical world where you have both data and content and what are really analytical apps, if you think about dashboards that way, there are a whole lot of opportunities for engineers, software engineers, to build cool extensions and cool utilities and extend this platform. So we built this and we started selling it. And I love this photo. This is from the TC in Den Haag, which is actually not that far from where I am, currently in a hotel in Amsterdam visiting customers. And at this Tableau on tour, you can see that is actually me on the right. I know it's hard to believe. I used to have hair and be thin. And a bunch of OGs from the Tableau community like Tom Brown, Francois, Mark Reeder, Louis Archer, and others. And that's me demoing the software that I came up with. And we called that the Power Tools for Tableau. I know, not terribly inventive, but then again, who doesn't love power tools? A suite of utilities for doing things like merging and managing workbooks, managing styles, auditing data sources, and a best practice analyzer. And these sold like hotcakes. And what we found was there was a whole bunch of opportunities that we could do if Tableau added more APIs. And we got to build relationships with the engineers and PMs, just like we're doing today. And like I've been fortunate enough to do now that I'm kind of on the inside, there are people who come to me with questions like this. Well, I found people on the inside at Tableau. We built relationships and began to find out areas where, like any technology vendor, there's a focus that the vendor has, and then there's a place where they absolutely need an ecosystem to fill in gaps and extend and integrate, whether for vertical solutions or specific technology integrations, things that the vendor will never build. And in fact, in a way, this is just a sidebar, but this is how Salesforce operates, building this fantastic platform with some world-class enterprise apps, but also creating a thriving ecosystem through the App Exchange where many other companies can build an entire business just around extending and integrating Salesforce. Well, that's exactly what we had in mind for Tableau. And we've thankfully found some like-minded people on the inside. Very quickly, there were a bunch of new APIs. It was originally called the JavaScript API, now the embedding API, all came out around that time, along with a bunch of other extensibilities such as the data extract API and later the hyper API. So where did we go from here? Well, not long after, Tableau took a look at the things that we were building, and so, oh yes, I see a question. Can you be descriptive when viewing the screen? I will attempt to explain more of what we're seeing here. What you're seeing at the moment is a old screenshot of marketing that we had done. But what I want to kind of comment and draw out about this, there's workbook merging, which was the kind of splitting apart and putting together workbooks. There was style and formatting management. There was data source auditing and a best practices analyzer. Now, those of you who've been around a while might go, well, wait a minute, why did you need data source auditing if we have Tableau catalog? Well, the fact is there was no Tableau catalog yet, but then Tableau went ahead and built the Tableau catalog, which obviated the need for this data source auditor, and that's okay. One thing I've learned living in an ecosystem like this is that sometimes the things that we're building are really valuable integrations and additional adjacent capabilities. And sometimes those are things kind of like, remember when we used to have those flashlight apps on our phones? And then Apple was like, actually, you just should have like a flashlight button that just works. And so there were a number of things that we built that actually Tableau said, okay, those are technologies we either should just acquire or we should go and build. Workbook merge is another case. In the very early days of Tableau, and it seems weird now, but if you had two copies of Tableau Desktop open, you couldn't copy and paste stuff between them. They'd not built that feature. And so we built this workbook merge feature knowing that it was a kind of short-term fill in the gap, solve a need that customers have today until Tableau added that capability. And before long, in a few months, they added that copy and paste, which obviated the need for that feature. So what happened with this suite of solutions that we created? Well, and the screenshot here is actually of the Tableau website. If you search for advanced management, those were acquired by Tableau. All the capabilities that we built there at Interworks as the power tools, and those are now part of advanced management. And it still makes me happy to this day when people ask me questions about the content migration tool, because that is the venerable enterprise deployment tool that we built, scribbled on a napkin over pizza at TCC 2012 in San Diego. It's kind of fun that we're going back to San Diego next year, by the way, for Tableau conference and bringing things full circle. So where do we go from there? And where did I go from there? And then I've got a few lessons that hopefully we can draw from this that might inspire you right at the end. Well, having now we'd sold off the technologies that we built to Tableau, I moved on to another company and started building a new thing, which we called Orbit. And this was, instead of a kind of Swiss Army knife for Tableau, it was a whole new experience over the top of Tableau to bring together visualizations from multiple environments, customers who had Tableau Online and Tableau Server. And although this product never did very much, didn't make much of an impact in the market, there was another product I want to call out from Interworks, the original company that made the power tools. Their Curator product is thriving and doing really well today. And they're a great example of what we want the ecosystem to do and what's possible in the ecosystem. They've built a whole healthy business around selling a Curator product that is a portal that customers can buy when they want to really customize the experience around all their Tableau visualizations. Next project I tackled was way back into the technical weeds, and that is the Tableau Performance Accelerator. And this is where my story begins to convene with Tableau 100%. So I had a customer who said, we have some performance issues with Tableau. We really want to pre-cache all of our content. So I began looking into how caching worked in Tableau and what the APIs offered. And by then, we had really rich APIs for pre-rendering content, even with specific filters. And I thought, gosh, there's got to be a way to leverage these APIs to automate this. Mercifully, by the time I did this, which was in, I believe, 2017 or 2018, there was no longer the need for undocumented APIs and random XML hacks. This was all part of the robust DataDev platform. And I got to give a shout out to all the folks in the DataDev team who worked so hard to add all these APIs. I created this performance accelerator and customers began using it, and that got the attention of some folks at Tableau who reached out and invited me to join the team. So that's how I actually ended up working for Tableau, was because of the work that I did as a data dev in the community. And by the way, if you go check that out, it's on GitHub if you search for Tableau Performance Accelerator. I did a talk about it at the Tableau Fringe Festival, which you can find on YouTube, and explains how it works. And I'll just say there's a couple of very clever little hacks that we used in there to bridge different APIs, and it's all codified there in the code. if you'll forgive my sloppy .NET and C#, you can find a couple of tips and tricks in there for working with our APIs and our caching. All right, so that's my Tableau DataDev journey. And again, I would never call myself a world-class software engineer or hardly a software engineer at all. Anybody who's actually an engineer who's looked at my code will nod their head and agree, but at least I can script a little bit. And that was enough for me to leverage the APIs that Tableau had, both the original undocumented ones and later the wide swath of documented APIs to build cool things, whether those were one-offs to solve a customer problem, whether they were free things that we just wanted to build and give to the community, like the Tableau Performance Accelerator, or commercial offerings like Curator, like the Power Tools, or like apps for Tableau, et cetera. So some takeaways, I'd just like to highlight a few points for you, as long as you can. There we go. I can now see my screen has updated. And those 3 takeaways are, I just love this photo, by the way. Let's just let that linger for just a short moment. That's my good friend and mentor, Francois. Okay, I got 3 takeaways for you. First, Tableau was closed, but now it's open. It is so open. We recently wrote a document internally about all the APIs that Tableau has, the public APIs that we have, and we kept thinking of new ones because there are so many APIs, we couldn't even jot down an entire list. I'm going to just breathlessly read through this list for you because it's so amazing. The REST API, Hyper API, Embedding API, Metadata API, the Workbook SDK, Document API, Analytics Extensions API, Dashboard Extensions API, Web Data Connector SDK, Webhooks, TabPy Connector SDK, DSM API, Data Extract, Command Utility, and more. And that's not even counting the internal and undocumented APIs, which I know many of you have used to great effect. Sidebar, someone used an undocumented API to bring down one of the Tableau Cloud pods in the last 3 years since I worked here. And that was that gave us an opportunity to sort of clean up some of those undocumented APIs. But I digress. So Tableau was closed, but now it's open. It's super open. Whether you are working at the data layer or the content layer or the management and administration layer, there is so much that you can do with these APIs. I constantly find customers who have not heard about some of these, for example, the Analytics Extensions API, or they've never used table extensions to leverage that API to call other services. So much capability is in the product. The second is Tableau was a tool. It started out as a desktop tool, but it is no longer, I would say, a tool. It is a platform. That means extensibility is there by design. And in fact, this is part of Salesforce's philosophy. It layered extension by design. And third, Tableau is a huge market. And whether you just want to make something for yourself, or you want to make a solution for your company or for your customers, or if you really want to contribute something back to the community by open sourcing it, or if you want to build a business like our friends at Apps for Tableau with all their cool add-ons like Show Me More and Super Tables, or Interworks Curator, or many other amazing solutions that the community has offered, this is a tremendous opportunity for you. And it's not just a financial opportunity. The reason I wanted to share my story is because I started playing around with Tableau because I thought it was cool. I started playing around with Tableau APIs because customers asked for help or a colleague asked for some help. And along the way, I discovered it built a career for me. I would not work here, literally would not work here if it had not been for the work that I did playing around with Tableau's APIs. So I hope you find the story inspiring or informative, and if none of those things, at least entertaining. And just to make sure I hit that last point, I want to show you the greatest photo of me that's ever been taken. And it's wearing that legendary, one-of-a-kind DataDev jacket at a Dreamforce. In one of the rooms, there was this amazing backdrop and a fake goat. And someone grabbed a camera, and the rest is history. So I encourage you to look off into the middle distance as I did and place your hand upon the metaphorical fake goat near you and be inspired to change the world with Tableau APIs. Thank you very much. And if there is any time, I'll field some questions. Otherwise, we can move on.
Thank you, Matthew. That was great. I love this. I think the goat picture was at TDX last year, right?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. We're going to share. Yes, we will share all the presentations. We're getting a few questions here. Will we ever get, there's a good one about disco there. Did you see that?
Disco.
Will we ever get disco?
Yes, I know the questioner. That is my good friend, Carl. We go way back. Will we ever get those styling tools back? Well, actually, the best practice analyzer that's now built into Tableau offering, both in desktop and in the web, is like literally directly taken from the work that we did back in the day with the best practice analyzer. Of course, we acquired it here at Tableau. So we took all that same logic. I don't think we reused any of the code, but we took those exact rule sets from back in the day for best practices for performance, found that many of them were still valid. We had some new ones, and that's exactly what happens when you do that. Data source auditing is now completely superseded by catalog, which is a way richer way of doing that than what we had then. Style management is something I would absolutely like us to bring to the table. And stay tuned, because we have a PM and a dev team working on that right now. Is there time for any more questions? I know we're past my 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think we gotta move, but that is okay. This is fantastic. Thank you so much, Matthew. I love the story and just what you can do, what this platform has built, how many lives it's changed. And I see Merlin here. I mean, Carl, you said, like, there are so many people that have either built businesses and just changed their life with the product. And I just love hearing all these stories. So I know you're one of them. I'm one of them. I know our fearless leader, Francois, was another one of those people. So I just love hearing all of these stories. I hope it resonates with the audience here. So thank you for taking the time. I know you're on 3 hours of sleep. I think you're going out to happy hour right now, right? I don't think you're going to bed.
How did you know?
I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
All right. So we're going to get into the meat of this. And there's some people asking about the web data connector. And we actually are not talking a lot about the web data connector today, but we will get you your questions answered, Scott and Sebastian. Okay, so we are going to kick off with the keynote now. And I think I'm moving right along. So we got some polls here going. I might be doing these poll things wrong, but I'm going to move right along, move right ahead. Okay, so a little bit about me. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Kevin. I work in Tableau in our product unit. I've been at Tableau for 8 years now. I haven't had the extensive history of working with Tableau, but wow, when I came in, I was working under Ops, under Tom Walker, if you remember that gentleman. I automated a whole bunch of laptops at TC. You can blame me for any of the problems that you had with your hands-on training about 2015 in Austin, or 2016, I believe that it was. That was my baby, the original thing that I worked on here. Moved into some cloud spaces as we were migrating Tableau Cloud up to AWS. And now I'm here working with partners and developers and just ecosystem enablement. So I really appreciate that you guys all taking the time to come talk to us about APIs and developer platform. So here we go. Before we get into the meat of the presentation, I'd just like to remind you that Salesforce is a publicly traded company, and that we'll be discussing some unreleased capabilities. So please make your purchasing decisions based on what's available today. So now that I make the lawyers happy, I just want to say thank you. Thank you, DataFam. Thank you for using it on the phone. Thank you for Matthew, who has been a long tenure of people. Thank you for everyone behind the scenes making this happen. Thank you for just having an interest in adding, evolving our ecosystem. It's one of the things we've opened up, and like Matthew said, it was a black box from day one, and now look where it is today. You inspire us every day, and we want to just keep adding more tools, and we are really excited. So we've had 20 years of innovation. 20 years Tableau has been around, and each release we continue to deliver capabilities to help people see and understand their data. As Matt, in our most recent things, some of the things that we've developed and released, the embedded playground is now GA. We just released on-demand access. So those of you who haven't heard about it before, but no user credentials for logging into Tableau Cloud and viewing a Viz. So we're updating licensing models so more and people can see and understand data. New REST APIs. and much, much, much more, and we'll get into that now. But with all this innovation, as developers, we want to go beyond what's possible with out of the box, right? So our developer platform gives you the tools you need to do more with Tableau so you can unlock more use cases, improve efficiency, and get more value out of the platform and your investment. And in fact, some of our DataDev ambassadors, which you'll hear from today, have done some amazing things. You already saw what Matthew's kind of done and built and turned into a career here at Tableau. We'll hear from Zach and Tristan as well later on. But we've had Tristan create advanced visualization generator, Anya and Marcello, both creating data dictionary tools. Ambassadors like Elliot, Kyle, and Zach have created tutorials to help educate and inspire the rest of the community on what you can do. And those tutorials are also online, so if you want to go back and watch them, I highly encourage you to do so. So here's a poll question here. What community projects do you want to learn more about? We want to hear more from you. What do you want to hear from? More, is it you want more user groups, more tutorials, more tools and extensions? I'm assuming everyone wants all of these things, but we'd love to hear about more that you'd like. So I'll let you. I'm not exactly sure how long to let these linger, but I'm going to move right along. Oh, look at that. A lot of people want more tools. Okay, we'll get it right. Well, obviously you heard, we're working on a lot of these things. So you'll hear from more of the things that we're releasing, and I'm really excited to talk about some of the new things we got on the pipeline. So this is the Tableau developer platform. We are continuing to help developers like you succeed with Tableau. We're committed to innovating across our 5 pillars: connect, extend, advanced analytics, embed, and automate. These 5 pillars span the wide range of capabilities that developers like you need to be more efficient and effective with Tableau. So let's get into it. If I can navigate my options here. So connectivity. I'm not going to go into super detail here, but we do have, as someone mentioned in the questions, we do have a connector SDK that allows you to build your custom connectivity to ODBC and JDBC resources. We just came out with version 3 of the Web Data Connector, allowing you to connect to applications like Box or Workday or any API-driven application on the back end. But really, data is everywhere. It's locked in silos, in disparate systems. It's networked across or locked across network boundaries. So in 2018, we released Tableau Bridge. And Tableau Bridge allows you to securely access your on-prem data by establishing an outbound connection from your data to Tableau Cloud. It's a proxy service, right? And most vendors in the data space do exactly this. But deploying and maintaining Bridge, I don't know how many people have deployed and maintained Bridge before, but we hear a lot of pain points from this. So we've put a lot of effort into Tableau Bridge. And it was funny working and talking with customers. Hey, migrate to Tableau Cloud. We really think that you can benefit from removing the administrative overhead of managing a Tableau server. But then the next question is, how do I connect to my data? Well, you have to manage more infrastructure. Well, that wasn't a really comfortable conversation with most customers. So this is why we're introducing Bridge as a Service. Bridge as a Service allows you to connect to Tableau Cloud with the promise of helping you manage your development and free up your more valuable time and resources by eliminating these hosting costs. Now with Bridge as a Service, we're doing all the same thing by taking on the responsibilities of common to a modern day SaaS application, with the exception of networking, hardware, and the OS. Bridge as a Service will handle the application and orchestration layers so you don't have to. And you're going to hear from one of the lead developers on that service later today. I'm really excited. Joseph is one of our best, and he's created some amazing tools and showing you just like the art of the possible for using the different APIs and tools. So I'm really excited. Those Tableau administrators on the line are going to love his presentation. Next up, extending. This is a pillar all about expanding dashboard functionality and with the help of web applications. Our community has long used these tools to add a unique functionality to Tableau. The dashboard extension API lets developers create web apps that can be bi-directional communication within Tableau. There's some people on the chat right now that I've seen have built amazing businesses with inside of this, and it opens up nearly unlimited possibilities with current extensions, covering anything from writing back to databases, to natural language generation, to formatting. Takashi Bin's, one of our engineers here, helped put ChatGPT into one of them. You could do so much with this. But throughout this journey, one of the most common use cases we saw was adding new Viz types. And while Show Me helps you pick from common Viz types, you might have to find something else in mind. And I know a lot of you have already tried to do this. And that's why many of you have used the dashboard extension API to create new Viz types that sit right along supported Viz types. But to better help developers create new Viz types, we're introducing the Viz Extensions. And if you checked out TC this year, TC 23, we introduced Viz Extensions. Their developer preview out now, to a limited developer preview out now. People are working with it, testing it. Viz Extensions are built using a very similar framework to how our dashboard extensions work. So you can leverage the same experience you've used with the other APIs. A Viz extension specifies the structure and the behavior of that Viz type that goes beyond the one that's out of the box. For those of you participating in our pilot on Tableau Public for Sankey and radial charts, which is our earliest examples of the Viz extensions. But this is just the beginning. We're making it possible for you to reuse Viz extensions in nearly any Viz type you can imagine. And on top of that, you'll be able to find these on the Tableau Exchange. So you can share so our ISV partners can share what you've built and harness the creativity of others. Moving to our next pillar is advanced analytics, where we help you focus on integrating your data science programming into and enrich your analysis. We know that you work with many tools, languages and tools. And in turn, we want you to leverage the experience you've already gained and not having to duplicate or refactor the code to make it work within Tableau. That's why we released Analytics Extensions. Analytics Extensions integrates with different programming languages and the platform of your choice to help you power advanced data analysis. The Analytics Extensions API helps you bridge the gap between Tableau and your favorite data science tools. It sets up a little server that you can receive data from Tableau in real time, which you could then score, transform, or augment with tools like Python and R. You can use the Analytics Extension in table calculations to leverage deployed models or create tables right within your data model. And for future releases, we'll be able to pass dynamic parameters into the table extensions. And if you're interested in this, we're going to have a deep dive on advanced analytics later in the show. And I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to that one. So next up, embed. And we've been putting a lot of effort into our embedded story. So I'm very excited. So our embedded API allows you to take the full power of Tableau and put it into your products, apps, and portals. The embedded analytics helps you reach your users wherever they are. Tableau seamlessly integrates your solution so the end user gets interactive analytics experience. And to help bring analytics into your user's workflow, we first enable you to embed Viz's as a web component. And then we took this a step further. We allowed you to embed an authoring experience so your end users can conveniently edit, explore, and author new content without leaving your web app. And now we're evolving things once again so that you can bring Tableau into your solution with different licensing models, allowing you to be cost effective to use these embedded solutions for you. And we'll have a talk on this later today as well. And something I'm really excited about bringing you, and I know a lot of other people are as well, but at TC this year, we introduced VizQL Data Service. And you could pop the hood and access the magic of Tableau's analytical engine. You might know this concept of headless BI or compostable analytics. The VizQL Data Service decouples Tableau's visual front end from the core VizQL backend. We're giving you a simple programming interface that allows developers to put the power of Tableau into any application. It's your query engine. It's your way to bring charts and things that you love best about Tableau into your app natively, seamlessly. Maybe you want to build a completely new experience that's not about dragging and dropping. Or maybe you want to integrate insights from Tableau into an automated business workflow. Or maybe you want to create a chatbot that interacts with your analytics in Tableau. All of this is powered by the VizQL Data Service. And if you haven't heard from Tableau Pulse or haven't heard about Tableau Pulse yet, we're going to talk about it again. But Tableau Pulse is one of our newest products we've announced. There's a lot of excitement about it, but we're releasing this in API format as well. So the Tableau Pulse web component will allow you to embed the metric detail page in your application with just a couple of lines of code using the same embedded API. The web component shows how a metric is trending with natural language and visual insights. And in the background, Tableau Pulse also checks for trends and outliers, flagging any unusual patterns so that you can quickly focus on what needs your attention. Tableau Pulse also identifies top contributors and drivers so that you can understand why the metrics are trending in one way or another. And for any follow-up questions that you have, you can use our guided Q&A experience to get answers to the recommended prompts without ever leaving your web application. Along with the web component, we'll be releasing new REST endpoints to help you manage Tableau Pulse. And with these, you can programmatically create and query for metrics and their subscriptions to streamline management. I know you all probably have a ton of questions here, and I'll try to get to them at the end. But we'll go to our last pillar here, automation. And I know there's a lot of server admins here, and we're designing more and more tools for you so you can spend time doing things you love. Like Kyle, who's one of our ambassadors, love video games here. I know he'd rather be, I don't know, maybe he'd rather be automating things, but he'd also love playing video games. I know he told me last week. Instead of doing the mundane, repetitive tasks. The manual processes are also slowed down while you're being asked to do more with less. So, I forgot to move a slide forward. So here we go. So how do you truly unlock the efficiency of every organization seeking out? It's obvious, through automation. So as more and more of our customers are migrating to the Tableau Cloud, we are introducing the Migration SDK. It'll deliver you, and that's why we'll find a spot here. To migrate to Tableau Cloud, you need to move users, groups, content, and governance structures. That's where the Migration SDK comes in. The Migration SDK uses REST API functionality to migrate those things. And when the content is migrated, the Migration SDK will map users across environments to ensure that the users who own the same content on both environments have access to the content on both sides. And as you heard from the pioneer Matthew, look at how far we've come with migration. It went from Matthew doing fiddler traces to find out what APIs were exposed to building a full-fledged SDK for migrating content users, and we'll be continuing to develop the SDK so that you can seamlessly move content from on-premise into Tableau Cloud. With these innovations, we're opening up a whole new world of possibility. We can't wait to see what you do with them. No matter your use case, the developer platform has the tools for you. So once again, I'd like to appreciate you. Once again, I'd like to thank you for tuning into our keynote. And this is just the beginning. I'm going to leave this question. I'm going to leave the poll up here for a second and answer some questions quickly. Can we avoid bridge entirely in the future for VPC cloud databases? I don't think the answer is going to be yes. I think you're going to, if your cloud database is in a VPC, cloud is VPC is bridge is going to be the solution there. Is it possible to make ChatGPT to implement the dashboard? So that is a great question. I don't think like via OpenAPI or ChatGPT to actually build a dashboard is going to be possible. But with what OpenAPI and ChatGPT just announced, whether it's like taking a feed in from a GitHub repo and spitting out that code, it's completely possible. Especially when we release VizQL data service, or VDS we're calling it, it will be completely possible to implement the dashboard. I would not be surprised very shortly if we see that possibility being the case. And if anyone has ever, we did this internally as a hackathon, but if anyone has taken the XML files of Tableau and shoved it into ChatGPT, see what happens. It's very interesting. Start asking some questions. Challenge. Will Viz Extensions require internet access, or can they be run locally or on-prem or on the on-prem server? Viz Extensions can be either sandboxed or networked, which means yes, they can call out to a network, or they can be isolated into their own little sandbox applications. There are security implications for using either a sandboxed or network Viz extension, and those can all be found on the public documentation of the Viz extensions. We'll be sure to drop those in the chat, Richard. Matthew asks, are these applications only to cloud, or are they available on server as well? It depends on the product. So I'm not sure how detailed everyone knows, but Tableau Pulse is going to be cloud only. Oh, I'm going to move forward here in the poll. VDS, Viz Extensions, I love it. This is great. And I'm going to quickly move to the rest of the day here. We'll continue answering these questions. I love them. Keep them coming. We'll have people on the phone here adding some more. But I just wanted to show what's up for the rest of the day here. And again, I really appreciate you coming. This is just the beginning of our day. So we have many more talks, a deep dive into all the things that I just discussed, whether that's the migration SDK. We have a lot of server admin tools. Next up, I believe, is Kyle with Tableau webhooks and AWS Lambda, which will be super fun. Hopefully I have the schedule right in my head here. I'm just the guy talking, not the schedule. So if I'm wrong here, correct me. I have a couple more minutes to keep answering questions. Ooh, this is a good one. Leonardo asks, why migrate from on-premise to Tableau Cloud? But many reasons. A big one is we manage the infrastructure for you. These are massive overhead. For those of you that have managed Tableau server at scale, it is hard. We've built many things into the product, but we have built the service on the back end, Tableau Cloud, to scale automatically, to provide more rich functionality. And Tableau Pulse is just the beginning, right? Some of these things that we're building, the S3 connector. The S3 connector would be great in cloud because you're sitting right on the AWS backbone for speed. So those are just some of the reasons why you would migrate from on-prem to cloud. We have blog posts on our tableau.com to talk about some of the more details, but I'll just give you the sneak preview there. Great question, Colby. Is Tableau GPT and Pulse essentially the same thing? No. So Tableau GPT, this is a great question. Tableau GPT is the tooling underneath the hood, a service effectively that we are running to provide LLMs and multiple language models right to you so we can customize them. And what Tableau GPT allows us to do is to dial up or down which services you use. So what we feel like here at Salesforce is that we want to keep your data confidential, right? So if you don't want the language if you want your data and information going to OpenAI or Anthropic or any other of the vendors, we have the expertise in tooling in-house to provide a service to these things. So if you think about it, Tableau Pulse is the layer that you are going to see. Tableau GPT is the service underneath the hood that provides this rich language modeling and chat capabilities to you. Great question, Colby. Will Viz Extensions impact the dashboard performance? That is a great question. I'm going to have to get back to you. That is a question for our dev team. So we will be sure to follow up with you on that one. Are there any performance issues associated with using extensions in a workbook? I think there are some amazing people on the thread here, Merlin and Apps for Tableau, who could probably answer that question better than I. Not that I'm aware of. There's second call outs. So there is going to be lag whether you're either running that locally or running that in a network. So if you're of a network-based extension, it's going to call out to the internet and come back. But they're separate, isolated box. So the Viz rendering is going to be different than the extension. I hope that helps. We'll get a little bit more detailed information for you. Okay, I think my time is up, but I am happy to continue. Oh, I have Merlin, who's a pro here, who has built info topics, and who says nah. So the answer is no. There's a load when getting data from the worksheet, for example, but no performance indicator. So to answer the question, thank you, Merlin. I appreciate your help.